All right, joining us now to discuss all of that, California Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell. He sits on the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. Congressman, we want to talk about the Supreme Court, but we have to get your reaction to the NATO summit, the president's comments about Germany, this whole concept. We were just speaking to Jane Harman earlier, who said she just doesn't really understand what the U.S. gains from this. Like maybe Donald Trump gained something in his base, but how does the U.S. gain from this endless fight with NATO?
Yeah. Good morning, Ali. We don't. This president has taken a wrecking ball over to Brussels. It's a wrecking ball to our alliances. It's a wrecking ball to our security. And it's actually a wrecking ball to our economy. There's a cost for everything that he's doing. We're going to have to pay more in our security if we don't have alliances over in Europe to be a check on Russia aggression. We're going to have to pay more if we see trade routes cut down and reduced because of this tariff war that the president is engaging in. And so this may benefit him. He may think it helps his base, but the American worker is going to feel the effects of his recklessness over there.
What do you think voters care about? Because whether you're talking about the American worker or one of your constituents, what President Trump is doing in terms of damage with our allies is like a slow-moving train wreck that sort of falls apart and gets disastrous over time. But in the short term, when he shows up and talks tough and demands more money, even if it's ill-conceived or he's not telling the truth.
Or dishonest, yeah.
Or dishonest, what matters most to voters in the now? Because the midterms matter.
Well, for voters, we want to, of course, get something out of the president going over there. And I think for most people, they see themselves as working hard, and that hard work should add up and mean something. They should see their paychecks grow. They shouldn't see health care eat up as much of their paychecks as it is right now. They should see the government invest in schools so their kids can do better than they do. That's the American bargain, and that's what the president promised would improve. It's not improving in their lives. And when he goes over and just wrecks these alliances, there's going to be an even bigger cost to pay in the future. Now, we're not helpless to this slow-moving train wreck. We can actually stop the wreck from happening if Congress was willing to put the brakes on and stand up as that check that we're supposed to be, not to appropriate the president's priorities. That's a way we can be a check. To speak up more and block some of the president's initiatives, that's a way to be a check. But right now, you have nothing but green lights from this Republican Congress, and that's going to hurt all of us.
And the other problem, of course, is that after NATO, he goes to the UK, meets with the Queen and the Prime Minister, then he goes to meet with Vladimir Putin. You spent the better part of the last 2 years studying what Russia has been doing in our elections and our democracy. The president does not share your views on Russia, apparently. So what are your concerns about this summit with Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, Ali, I feel like I've gotten the only debt-free education I've gotten has been a PhD in Russian studies in this last year. But the president must do what we know he will not do, which is first confront Putin directly and tell him there's a price to pay if there's future meddling. Also, the chaos that's going on in Syria, Putin makes it worse by supporting Assad. What's going on in Ukraine, Putin's desires to annex further beyond Crimea. Again, we have to get something out of it. Just going over there and broing out, I don't know if that does much for our interests here at home.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to see the two of them riding horses without shirts on.
Keep your shirts on, boys.
Let's talk about the Supreme Court justice pick. I know we have heard many Democrats, some colleagues of yours, very critical of Brett Kavanaugh. But the truth is, you don't have enough votes to block his confirmation. If I'm a red state Democrat, how difficult is this position? If I fight against Brett Kavanaugh, all of those sitting in the middle could say, this is petty, let it go, he's getting a lot of widespread support. And then if you don't push against him, the people on the left are saying, what are you doing? Everything is on the line here.
Yeah, so I would say first, take the politics out of this. This is not about one person. This is a qualified judge, and we should respect that, and I do. This is about what the idea of this nominee could mean to your health care decisions, your right to make decisions at your doctor's office. And I think because the president has said there's going to be a litmus test and he's only going to appoint pro-life judges, and that there's going to be punishment for women if they seek to get an abortion, this judge needs to be asked directly whether he will respect the precedent of Roe v. Wade. And also, the context here is that the president is under criminal investigation, and the lawsuits seem to be flowing in every day on the civil side. And his views, this judge's views, that a president is immune from civil and criminal liability, maybe with another president that might be okay. If this president asked him to be inoculated, I think we need to know that too.
Congressman, I hear you on every point you're making, but can you actually say this isn't about politics? It is about politics, and the mastermind who played the game was Mitch McConnell. And you could love him or hate him, but he triangulated this to ensure that Merrick Garland did not get the opportunity, and now you got 2 Supreme Court justices in that seat. So can you really say it's not about politics?
Yeah, and the game we should be playing is not inside the U.S. Senate. It should be inside every living room in America, and making sure that women understand that their right to make their own health care decisions is affected. And they need to speak up, particularly to their senators in Alaska and in Maine. And if those 2 senators have those concerns and they don't vote for this nominee, then that nominee will be blocked. But also, this decision is going to be made very close to the election. So if the nominee is confirmed, I think we can take that energy that is out there right now and transfer it to the ballot box and make sure voters understand the courts may not be able to protect us, but a Democratic Congress, a check on the president, that can.
Congressman, let's talk about these kids at the border and these families. The government again missed a deadline on reuniting children under 5 years old. As of yesterday, the numbers are that there are still 64 out of the 102 that are not reunited, and then there's all of those who are over 15. I guess here's the problem. You can't really throw HHS and Alex Azar and Kirsten Nielsen into jail, but it does seem that the government is flaunting deadlines and not taking this more seriously. They get scolded by a judge. It doesn't seem to mean anything. What happens next?
Well, again, going back to Stephanie's analogy of the slow-moving train wreck, we're not helpless to stop this. We actually can put a hard stop on prioritizing any of the president's initiatives until they reunite these families. I serve on the Judiciary Committee, and you probably will believe this, but you shouldn't. Today, we were set to go back and have another hearing on Hillary Clinton's emails. We're the committee with jurisdiction over these kids. I was with one of these kids who was separated 2 weeks ago, a young boy named Yo-Yo. He looked at me like I was his father. I was about his father's age, with the same confusion that these families are experiencing across America. It was heartbreaking to see. Our #1 priority right now needs to be to reconnect these families. And again, Congress can make that happen by just stopping any further action on the president's priorities until it's a priority to him.
This is not about politics. It is about humanity. And I'd like to believe that all Americans can put decency and humanity first. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.